When you look at a client's top Clifton strengths, you're staring at over 33 million possible combinations. It's a massive, chaotic swarm of data points. Trying to diagnose a complete person by analyzing each individual trait is like looking through a microscope. You can spend hours examining the raw tools someone possesses without ever stepping back to see the actual person. The Genius Spark Ring system solves this by acting as a telescope. It provides a visual shorthand that instantly maps out a client's personality at a glance. While raw strengths identify the specific tools sitting in a person's toolbox, the ring system reveals how that person actually picks them up and moves through the world. This moves the coaching process away from simply categorizing traits. Instead, you begin to map the flow of energy through a person, seeing exactly where they build momentum and where they reach their limit. As a guide, your primary task is clear. Locate exactly where a client naturally generates their energy and identify where they are currently leaking it. This diagram illustrates the Genius Spark Ring system. It organizes those millions of strength combinations into 4 core energy zones, which represent a client's natural operating languages. The blue quadrant represents relating. This is the energy source for emotional awareness, interpersonal connection, and instinctively reading the room. Moving to the green zone, we find thinking. People generating energy here thrive on cognitive depth, processing abstract ideas, and strategic reflection. The orange zone represents acting. This quadrant fuels execution, forward movement, and the drive to bring tasks to completion. Finally, the red zone is motivating. This acts as an emotional thermostat, driving influence, outward projection, and momentum. Some traits, however, don't stay locked in one quadrant. We call these chameleon strengths. A trait like responsibility might shift into the blue zone if it is activated by an internal sense of loyalty, or it could slide into the orange zone if it is driven by a desire to be reliable. Grouping strengths by their underlying activators turns a rigid dataset into a highly individualized, instantly readable energy pattern. These energy patterns formed 15 distinct ring archetypes. We group them into 4 families: balanced systems, 3-zone operators, 2-zone specialists, and single-zone extremes. The architecture of this system relies on a strict rule. The fewer zones a profile occupies, the more extreme and concentrated their behavioral pattern becomes. But every concentration of energy creates a corresponding shadow side. When a profile is missing a zone, it creates a natural friction point, where energy is often lost or misinterpreted by others. Take the servant leader, who operates purely with relating, thinking, and acting energy. Because they lack this self-advocating push of the motivating zone, they are prone to a martyr complex, silently sacrificing their own needs until they are entirely depleted. The innovator relies entirely on thinking and motivating. Without steadying forces, their energy can mimic a prairie dog, retreating into a deep cave of thought, only to suddenly pop up with intense, inconsistent bursts of inspiration. The catalyst is a high-octane untane running purely on the right side of the ring, motivating and acting. They drive rapid progress, but without relational energy to gauge the impact, they can create a wildfire that burns through a team's cohesion. At the far edges of the spectrum are the rare, single-ring extremes, like the pure execution warrior or the entirely cerebral mastermind. They possess immense capacity in one specific area, but face significant challenges navigating the unpopulated zones of their profile. When clients exhibit these shadow behaviors, it isn't a sign of personal weakness. They experience frustration and burnout simply because they are operating outside their natural energy ring. This leads to the fundamental strategy of the system. A guide doesn't try to change the person. They adjust the environment to ensure a person's role actually matches the way they produce results. When applied to team dynamics, workplace conflict stops looking like personal friction. It reveals itself as a predictable energy mismatch. For example, a speed collision occurs when a team member firmly in the orange acting zone pushes to move immediately, while a colleague in the green thinking zone insists on pausing for further analysis. To resolve these collisions, a guide uses a 4-step intervention. Name the pattern driving the behavior, validate it as a natural strength, translate how the other person experiences that energy, and then bridge the gap to find a working rhythm. By providing this neutral language, the friction of being misunderstood disappears. Clients often find an immediate sense of relief by seeing that their perceived flaws are actually predictable patterns of their design. Ultimately, as a Genius Guide, your goal is not to alter who people are. Your goal is to hand them the telescope, allowing them to finally see and deliberately activate their natural energy patterns.